Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you for having me this evening. It's a pleasure for me as well as some of our staff to be here and spend some time with a group that I've come to know over the last few years through Mr. Doug Unger, the state chair here. We crossed paths a couple of years ago when I was working over on the reentry side. So I just want to, thank you on behalf of Governor Deal as well as our Commissioner, Greg Dozier, for what you do, those that are state volunteers here in Georgia, and then on the perspective of others who are volunteering in so many other 35, 36, soon to be 37 states. We couldn't do what we're asked to do day in and day out without you. I think you know and realize that, and it's great that you can gather here to spend some time together, to network, train, learn from each other, figure out what's working, what's not working, how do you move into other areas. So thank you. I'm going to be pretty brief because Donna's told me I don't have long, so no, I'm kidding. And thank you from the thousands of inmates that you touch day in and day out. Very few people, I know in Georgia there was a study done several years ago, Georgia 1 in 13 people is under some form of correctional supervision. I have relatives in the Georgia prison system that I see sometimes when I go through some of the prisons. I'm sure many of you are also in that same situation. So this is personal. This is personal for all of us. Crime, recidivism, prison ministry, it affects everyone in this room one way or the other. And thank you for what you're doing to make a change and make a difference. Just a few stats kind of talking about Georgia, and I know many of you work in states that are very similar to this. Georgia has a unique distinction of being fourth in the prison population. Right now we have between 52 and 53,000 individuals incarcerated in the state of Georgia in our prison systems. That doesn't include anybody on probation or parole or on misdemeanor probation. So we've got quite a large prison system. Our department has about 11,000 staff that are supervising these. We've got over 93 facilities scattered across the states in various forms, probation detention centers, state prisons, transitional centers, many of which y'all touch or work in similar facilities. Our budget, I believe it's the second largest in the state at $1.2 billion. So this is a huge responsibility for us. Like I said, across, now I've laid some Georgia numbers, but it's the same. These trends and statistics are similarly repeated in all of the states and the areas that you're working in. Now in Georgia, we have about 18,000 inmates that are annually released, about 18,000 right now that are coming into the system. So right now we're kind of holding status quo. Our prison population is not growing. Governor Deal's done a great job over the last 6 or 7 years with his reform councils and addressing a lot of the issues that were hitting us as a prison system. So we've done a lot of great things, a lot of innovative things in Georgia. I've been very fortunate to move into this role where we're over some education, and I'm not even going to get into all that, but there's so much we're trying to do to give individuals opportunities. Now, y'all are touching them on the spiritual side. We try to give them vocational, educational opportunities. But you're touching them on the spiritual side. You're making those personal connections day in and day out. I know most of my background is on the probation side of things. Probation was a very small piece of the Department of Corrections until it was moved over to another agency recently. And then you start digging into the prison system in Georgia, which is just, it's a big machine. And I didn't realize how big it was until I dug into it and started going around prisons. But I can say this, in my dealings with prisons and wardens, I've not heard anything negative about the Kairos ministry. So thank you for that. Y'all are great partners in what you do. Give yourself a hand. So when I took this job and I found out it was over chaplaincy, I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm a Christian. You know, what can I do to improve and help in this arena? I've got some great staff working in that area. Like I said, I met Mr. Doug, and he's always calling, hey, can you get me in this prison? Can you get me into that prison? That's fine. That's what I'm here for, Mr. Doug. And I've committed to him that I'm going to do everything humanly possible to help him get in every facility that we have here in the state of Georgia. I don't know how many y'all are in right now. I know it's not all of them, but he's working very hard to get us there. 25. Great. We've got some new facilities coming online. We're reopening Metro State Prison in the Atlanta area as a reentry facility for those individuals that get out in the Atlanta area. We're going to try to plug them in as well. Should be no problem there. We need that support. But most of the inmates that are in our system and they're in other systems are going to get out one day. They're coming back to our communities. So we want them to have this connection that y'all help build. Like I said, I can't say enough about your willingness to do what you do as an unpaid army, a volunteer army that goes into prisons across the U.S. day in and day out. I know in Georgia we've got a large volunteer population, about 3,000 a month of volunteers that come into our prison and help us in some way, shape, fashion, or form. We have about 13,000 inmates that attend some form of religious service during the months, during each month. We've got about 18 faith and character dorms that comprise about 1,600 beds throughout the state, and we're always looking to expand those. But I asked my staff, I said, tell me a little bit about Kairos. And to the best of our knowledge, and it would surprise me if it was different, y'all, Kairos is our largest volunteer organization in the state of Georgia. And I'm sure that's represented in the other states that are represented here as well. I don't want to slight any of the work that y'all are doing in those other states. Approximately, these were some quick numbers, there was approximately about 650 events, we believe, last year that were Kairos related in Georgia. And anywhere from 250 to 300 volunteers a month coming into our prison systems. So like I said, thank you for what you're doing there. Like I said, my background was in probation. I thought my job was to find ways to lock them up probation officer. My mindset has changed through the years. I realize, those folks have got families, they're going to get out someday. And while we have to hold people accountable, we've got to give them some options. We've got to give some ways to change and some things to do things differently. But as I moved and changed and moved around in roles in my career, got over into the reentry field, it surprised me the number of people that were willing to help. It really did. Knowing the population that we deal with, and you know them just as well as I do, if not better, it was just very surprising to me, both on the faith-based side, as well as numerous other nonprofit organizations that were willing to help. It just really, truly, I just had to sit back and say, this is amazing that so many people are willing to give of their time, their money, and their talents to reach a population that for the most part through the years is, once they're locked away, they're forgotten about. But like I said, we know they're going to get back out. So once again, thank you for doing that. The individuals that go through your programs and other similar programs are less likely to return to prison. Like I tell people a lot of times, I'm in one of the few jobs where I'm trying to work myself out of business. I really am. Like I said, our prison system has continued to grow. We're in good shape right now, but I've been doing this about 25 years now, and there's no shortage of things to do, either on the community corrections side or on the facility side. But like I said, those that do go through your programs, we won't see them again. That's a good thing. That means they're at home. They're doing what they need to do. They're taking care of their family. They're being productive citizens out there on the streets. They're your neighbor. They're my neighbor. They're the folks we run into in the grocery store, the folks that stop and help you change a flat tire on the side of the road. You never know who you're going to cross paths with or where they've been. But like I said, the individuals that y'all touch are better for you having been with them and spent the time that you have spent with them. I noticed the verse that you've got on your placard there, Matthew 25:6. I was in prison and you visited me. Prison ministry is not for everybody. You know that. Some folks don't know when that door slams behind you. Y'all are used to it. I know that. I see some hardened veterans in here. some people it's unnerving. You take them in. I know your first-time volunteers, when they go into prison, it's very unnerving. Like I said, and some folks just can't do it. I was fortunate enough to do some juvenile prison ministry several years ago. That's a whole different population. Let me deal with the adults anytime. Juvenile, I've got 2 teenage boys, by the way, but they're good kids. But reaching out to those in prison, like I said, very much a forgotten population. I'm not going to take long. Like I said, I just wanted to encourage you. Thank you on behalf of the state of Georgia, for those that are here, as well as the other states that you're touching, for being this international organization that's reaching out regardless of where you're at, what you did, or why you're where you're at. But thank you for reaching out to them and making a difference and touching them with the love of Jesus. So thank you.